Anyways, guys, guess what? I'm gonna talk about King Krule today. King Krule is very cool. King Cool. Okay, let's get serious here. Enough fooling around, let's get cruelin' around, if you know what I mean. Archie Ivan Marshall is a bit of a music man. He's been releasing music since he was super duper young, about 15 years old. And he's been capturing the heart of music listeners with his lovely voice and his guitar playing style. It's very hard to describe, but it sounds pretty different from most guitar-based music I listen to. Anyways, let's get into it. Archie's first major splash in the music scene were the tracks that he posted onto the Zoo Kid Bandcamp page over the course of 7 months when he was 15 years old. 2 of these were released on a 45 later that year, and all of the tracks were compiled on a project called UFO Wave. Now these are bedroom demos, but 4 of them would later appear on his full-length debut in 3 years. Don't let the subpar recording quality scare you off from trying this out. Every single track on here is tight, and I'd go as far as to say it's my favorite release from the first half of his career. My favorite from here is probably Grayscale. It's one of the 2 songs that didn't make it onto the album, and that's a shame because the progression on here is ridiculously good. By the way, from this point on, he adopted the name King Krule, which is based on Elvis Presley's King Creole role, and not King K. Rool. 6 Feet Beneath the Moon is kind of a dangerous album for me. Pretty much any time I think about one of the songs, I just want to listen to the entire thing again, and then for the next couple days, I have every single song stuck in my head. Like while I'm writing this, I'm desperately trying not to think about the chorus of Borderline, because if I do, then the soul chokes to cause the tide to enforce divide. God, now I have to listen to that track 30 more times. For a 50-plus minute album, this has a lot of very strong individual tracks comprised of some pretty neat genre fusions that set it apart from most singer-songwriter stuff. It was released on his 19th birthday, and the writing is what most would expect from a young London man. Stuff about love, the ocean, the moon, and reptiles. I mean, really, those are practically the only things that exist in the UK, but I digress. A Girl Called Blue comes up in a few tracks' lyrics. I'm sure there's plenty to dig into about that, but I'd say just listen to it yourself. Any context works, but if you want it to be an authentic experience, you have to put this record on at 3 a.m. He'd follow 6 Feet Beneath the Moon 4 years later. However, he put out a few projects under different monikers in between them, such as A New Place to Drown in 2015 under Archie Marshall, his real name, which dives deeper into the trip-hop influences that he was exploring on his debut. Unfortunately, those were the parts that I liked the least, so it's sort of a flyover record for me, although I'm sure others vibe with it. The Ooze is the record that got me into King Krule. It's big, it's lumbering, it's oafish, but lovable all the same. If I had to describe it in one word, it'd be groggy. This album sounds like it just got out of bed and it hasn't brushed its teeth yet. Reminds me of one time I was stumbling in circles around downtown St. Augustine at midnight, and I kept passing by the same acupuncture shop or something like that had this grotesque diagram of a foot and all its pressure points plastered across the window for all to see. Forgive me if this sounds a bit pretentious, but I feel like The Ooze is less of an album and more of a mood. A lot of the individual tracks barely even work on their own, but add in the wonderful sequencing, the gloriously hazy production, and the classic druid-style singing from Archie, and you got some really special music. The reason it's called The Ooze is because it's an album about all the things that humans ooze out, like hair and fingernails, but that's a bit gross. My personal interpretation is that The Ooze is a deep, hour-long concept album about the life and times of Ivan Ooze, who, if you don't know, is the main villain of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie from 1995. I mean, think about it. Lonely Blues could be about how he was trapped in an egg for 6,000 years. Half Man, Half Shark could be about a Zord. Even the cover, I know that it's technically an airplane trail, but it could be a reference to how Ivan Ooze dies by getting hit by a comet. Okay, I'm done. Listen to Dum Surfer. Archie returned with a surprise 16-minute short film called Hey World, uploaded to his YouTube in November of last year, that contained him playing 4 songs with nothing but his snazzy guitar and some neat-looking backdrops. A few months later, his third album is King Krule, Man Alive, was released on February 21st. Archie is a father as of May 2019, and around this time he moved away from London. Looking at how much that urban environment has appeared in his lyrics up to this point, moving away from it was sure to be a big part of the new album he was working on. According to the packaging, quote, Ollie left a CD of his music at my house titled Man Alive in 2013. The title crept around the corridors of my skull, so I stole it. As one of the most important people know, this music would not exist without him, and so on. End quote. This album has a lot of connection with the Ooze. In a way, I think it ties up a lot of the loose ends from that record. Ooze was very consistently dreary, while in Man Alive there are moments where you start to see the clouds clear a little bit. It's really interesting. Man Alive is only 2/3 as long as his last one, but it feels so much more varied in tone. He continues exploring some moodier, low-key directions, like on Don't Let the Dragon Drag On. But then you get a couple songs more like Alone Omen 3, which are just so comforting. What ties it all together, though, is the production. It practically demands to be played on speakers because you can just get lost in some of these songs. It's scrumptious. One of the funniest things to consider about Archie Marshall is that he's 25. There are very few musicians who have accomplished what he has at this point in his life. If I had to guess what he's going to do next, his 5th album is probably going to go in a way different direction than Man Alive, much like how The Ooze was pretty drastically different from 6 Feet Under the Moon. Whatever it may be, it's pretty safe to assume it'll be another amazing jewel in the crown of King Krule. Thanks for watching.